Hello and welcome to Try and Z Saturday Race League, race number 5. We're getting down to the business end of this 6-part series. Our best 4 races count, so we're now getting to the point where the points may shuffle around a bit. We've had new people joining in the last 2 to 3 races, and they may start to catch those who were early adopters of this race series. So it's going to get pretty interesting. We're just switch here and look at this race as we're going. We've got nearing on 200 people in race A, which we'll be covering today, both the male, and I'll try and give as much coverage as I can of the female race field as well that's happening. Today's course, we're around New York City. We're going to be riding Central Park, 3 laps of what's called the Astoria Line 8 circuit. It's a 35 kilometer total race, and each lap is around 11.5 kilometers. We've got a great club and coach group competition getting down to the business end too. We've got Auckland City Tri Club with a somewhat commanding lead in the club competition, followed by North Harbour, Canterbury Triathlon, and then right nipping at their heels is Tri Tauranga. So they are only within about 20 points, I think. So it really could change up in this race. In the coach group standings, we've got O'Hagan Sport, which has got a big commanding lead. I don't see them being caught. But behind them is Foot Traffic and Perimeter Coaching. So that's Rob Dallymore and Chris Willett. And that is very close. That is just within maybe 5 points between those 2 coaching groups. So I think that could end up changing a little bit here today and in the next race as people start to drop off those points from the earlier races if they are performing better. If we have a look at our A+ league, so that's what I'd call our elite riders. They're the ones who usually average over 5 watts per kg, which is insane. Ryan Kazanowski is leading that. Actually, no, he's tied with Cassius East. So big battle at the front for the league standings of the A+ category, Ryan Kazanowski and Cassius East. So I'll keep an eye on them today. We've also got in the men's A is Heath Eckersley and Ben Phillips. There's only 1 point between them for that top position. So that's going to be another little battle to watch today. And in the female A, we've got Sophie Corbridge with a commanding lead. She was a early adopter in this race, so she has raced all 5. So she may start to get caught from Ella Harris, who has won the last 3 female races in that A category. We've also got Rebecca Clark in there, Amanda Robinson from Canterbury. They're all up the top 5 in that women's A league. So we're just over a minute away here. Quick shout out to our sponsors. Obviously Try and Z is running this league. We've got Domestique, Smart Trainer Rentals and Sales. So that's Barry there at Domestique. He's already starting to hook some people up as we look to get out of lockdown level 3. We've got Manuka Performance, great supporter. They're the ones who are giving away the prize packs for our podium positions at the end of this, and also been supporting some of the stuff we've got going on in the community on Facebook and providing some prize packs there as well. 2XU and Essex have got some great vouchers that we'll give out as spot prizes, and also Suzuki. So we're just under 30 seconds away. So this is going to be an interesting course. It's very, very rolling. It's quite long today, being 35 kilometers. And I went and tested this course earlier in the week, and it is quite tricky. So people have got to stay on their game. We'll just flick here to the race start. 10 seconds away. Like I said, it always is a fast and hard start. You can just see Hayden Wild there. He's got a great position at the front of that start line. I'll just make sure we get to the front once this kicks off in 2, 1, here we go. Race number 5 of the Triathlon League. Let's get up the front, follow these lead riders. We'll try and get into the women's race as well. I've got that going right next to me on a separate computer. So here we go. We'll make our way up to the front. Like I said, almost 200 riders in this A category today. You can see these watt drums being dropped, 8 watts a kg just to stay in this front pack. It is crucial here to stay with the pack on this course. It is so rolling and you get a massive draft effect just staying with this front lead pack. So we'll follow Ben Phillips here for a while. He's doing very well. Like I said, he's just on 2nd place in the league standings, but only by 1 point. So we'll follow him here and see how he's going. Looks like there's a little attack off the front. We might just move up there. I'll just get onto this women's field. See if I can find some of our lead ladies. I do know Ella Harris is racing today. She's usually up the front. I've seen Hannah Wells also racing today. So we'll just make sure we've got eyes on the women's race as well as we go through. I do see Braden Curry is in the race as well. He may have actually been dropped now that I look. Here we go. Taylor Reid is racing today. There's Hannah Wells. So we'll follow Hannah Wells in the women's race. It looks like Hannah Wells has made that front pack, so we can actually watch both of them at the same time at the moment. So here we go. Front pack of about, this is a big front group. I would say you're looking at almost 80 riders at the moment in this front pack. There was a little attack there off the front, but it looks like it has been brought in. We've got Kyle Smith here, Hayden Wild. He had probably one of the most exciting races I have seen on Zwift last week. If you haven't given it a look, go have a look. It is hands down one of the most exciting Zwift races I've seen, and I've watched that Zwift racing for a long time now. He attacked those climbs every time, and it was phenomenal to watch. Massive sprint at the end with Lawrence Pithy, a young cyclist, up-and-coming cyclist who is obviously a fantastic sprinter. We've got Aaron Strong here, I've just seen, and Hayden Ralston in this main pack, along with Ben Phillips, Aaron Royal, Brodie Madgwick, Liam Miller. So there is a really heavy-hitting front pack here, and there will be massive pack dynamics. You can see on this course, it actually exactly replicates Central Park in New York. So we cover every road in Central Park over this one lap. Like I said, there's about 11.5 kilometers per lap. And it's just really rolling terrain. There's very little that's flat. It's either up or down. There's a couple of little key kickers that go up to about 10% gradient that if you're going to see an attack, you're probably going to see it there. And the finish line today is actually on one of those 10% kickers. So it's quite tricky. It's going to be interesting to see what power-ups people drop today. I went and recce'd the course earlier in the week, and I would say if you have an aero power-up, you could use that with about 1,500 meters to go, and you can break away, maybe an invisibility power-up as well. But you really probably want that feather if you're going to be putting in a sprint at the end. Now we've got this race obviously live as you're watching. Feel free to put any questions or comments as we're going through. Put your picks through. We've got 3 screens in front of me so I can see what messages you guys are putting through. I've just seen Hannah Wells peeking through in this main pack. Looks like Hayden Wild, of course, doing a little attack off the front. He's bringing Jack Moody with him. I think they could be working together. That was a nice little 1-2 punch. They got up to that 8 watts a kg. Ryan Kazanowski, he's there too. So these are the real pointy end of this league standings. These guys know this race is important if they want to keep their points in the league standings high. And I bet Ryan knows that he is right there tied in this A+ league with Cassius East. So we'll see if we can see Cassius around as well. Just seen Braden Curry here. He has been great at chasing down breakaways, so we'll probably see him coming into the forefront with that. We do have Heath Eckersley there as well. So he is the one with Ben Phillips right at the top of that A category. I haven't seen Sophie Corbett yet, so that'll be interesting to see how she's going here, knowing that Hannah Wells has made this front pack, although it is stringing out. You can see in the map in the top right corner, all the little red dots represent riders. And when they're all strung out like that, you know it's been pushed at the front. So we can see here at the front, you got Braden Curry. He's pushing around 5 watts a kg. He's being joined by Kyle Smith. Kyle Smith, a great athlete. We haven't seen him since race 2, I think. And he is a great athlete out of Topor. Noah's mum, Gillian, relatively well. So Gillian, if you're watching, shout out there. And she's been a great supporter of Tri and Z. Was a president of the Topor Triathlon Club for a while, actually. And this is her son, Kyle. Amazing race from him at the 70.3 late last year. So we'll just see what's happening here. Got a great little group. I'm impressed with this lead pack today. Now, this has not calmed down as much as I thought. These guys are pushing 7. And we've got John Newsom up there. That's fantastic. John Newsom has been leading some Sunday rides. I joined him last week on a very, very brutal ride that's taken me a whole week to recover from, where he led a group of about 80 of us finishing up Alpe de Zwift. Took about 4.5 hours. So he might have a good endurance here. So this course today, like I said, it follows exactly the Central Park undulations. They've gone around with GPS and have exactly matched what you would see in Central Park, and it's not easy. The course is called Astoria Line 8. So for a bit of facts here, it's Astoria Line 8 was actually the name of the first New York subway line. So that's why they've called it Astoria Line 8. They've had some riders who used to race in Central Park back in the day, back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, go and race on Zwift, and they've actually said the course is almost exactly the same as what they found it in the race. So there's a nice few little kickers that could break up the field, but we have started to see a break here. And if I flick back to Hannah Wells, she indeed has just been dropped off this front pack of mostly male riders. I can see Ella Harris is actually about 3 seconds in front of Hannah. I think Hannah will be targeting Ella because she knows Ella has been winning those women's A races lately, and it will be interesting to see if she can pick that up. So Hannah's riding about 5 watts per kg, which is very, very impressive coming from a female athlete, but I see Ella Harris has picked it up to about 6 watts a kg. So this will be an interesting battle between these two. Hannah just needs to catch that break. She is about 5 seconds behind Ella Harris now, in a group with Barlow, Bobby Kells, who is an ex-New Zealand World Championship rower. So if she can jump on his wheel, that could be quite good, as she could get up to that group. She can just see them actually. So if she can really just push, she is still pushing 5 watts a kg, but so is Ella. So I think Ella is a savvy racer on Zwift. She will know that Hannah is a great athlete here and could be catching up. So we'll keep an eye on that female race as that progresses. Let's have a look what's happening here. So we've got a little sort of bunch up at the front. So obviously they have relaxed the pace a little bit. Just keep an eye on the front of the pack here. Ruben Thomas, we've got Braden Curry. We'll try and just keep eyes on Braden Curry for a little bit. Everyone's moving around quite a lot in this front pack, trying to get good positioning. We've got Aaron Royal here, Jack Moody. We'll follow Jack Moody. You can see Kyle Smith, Ben Phillips. This is a very, very select group of riders leading this front charge. So 6.4 kilometers in, each lap 11.5 kilometers. It's quite a long race today, 35 kilometers. We've found with everyone getting used to Zwift, there was a bit of a request for some longer racing. And this is a challenging course, not only because it's just constantly up and down, but it's very easy to sort of almost lose focus and drift away a little bit. And what happens there is that a little kicker will come and people will just power up that kicker, and before you know it, you've been dropped off the back. So it is a hard course to stay focused on. And also, what I saw when I went out and recce'd the course, I saw Hayden Wild out there recceing the course. I saw a bunch of people from some triathlon clubs out recceing the course. Key for today's race is that you've gone out and ridden it before, because there are some little areas that I would say are danger zones if people are going to attack, and you may just get dropped off the back. So they have pulled in the pace a little bit. I mean, it's still sitting at around, I've got Taylor Reid up there. That's good. He has dropped off the pace a little bit in past races, so it's good to see Taylor Reid up there. They're just down to that around 4 watts a kg, just under 4 watts a kg. So there is a slight settling of pace now. They've made that break. Looking at the women's race, Hannah is in that chase pack to Ella Harris, but Ella Harris has now moved ahead to around 25-second lead on Hannah Wells's group. So Ella Harris, if you don't know, she races professionally in real life for Canyon SRAM, but she also races a lot on Zwift. She was actually discovered through Zwift, and that's how she got picked up to have a pro contract. So she knows her way around these Zwift courses, and she knows how to get in those drafts and how to race savvy. So it'll be interesting there. It looks like Hannah is in second place. I haven't seen Kate McElroy coming through on the race today, so we'll keep an eye on that. She may have dropped into another pack behind Hannah's pack, but we'll keep an eye. Ella Harris is now just under 20 seconds ahead, but I think that is probably a bit too far because she is in a good group of about 15 to 20 riders around her. But good work, Hannah. She's definitely getting a handle on Zwift racing now, and she has made that chase pack chasing down Ella Harris. Back to the lead of the men's race here. Looks as though we've just dropped off that main pack. You can see that Ella Harris in this chase pack, but they are about 22 seconds back. They had John Newsom, Max Gordon, and we're back up with that main group. So the chase pack is about 25 seconds behind. That would definitely be too far. We've got Boston Bright. He's been performing very well in the league. Jackson Grammer, Coleman, Pawson, these are all familiar names from the league. Got a couple of internationals joining us today. We've got Ryan Kazanowski. He's been doing very well. He joined in the league, I think, from around race 2, but he has really taken to it. And like I said, him and Cassius East are performing very well in that A+ Elite League, and it will come down. There's only 1 point, they're tied actually. Ryan Kazanowski and Cassius East, which I've just seen here, they are tied. So whoever wins today's race will edge ahead. We've also got Heath Eckersley and Ben Phillips, who are also in this lead pack, and there's only 1 point between them for that A male category. It's nice to see Aaron Strong here, a great cyclist in this lead pack, so it's good to see some new riders coming into the TriNZ Zwift League. As we round out now into just coming up 10 kilometers, so each lap 11.5 kilometers, and we'll just be rounding out lap 1, and it looks like we've still got a main pack of about, I would almost say 50 riders up here. So if it was me, and I was a long course rider, if I'm a Braden Curry, a Mike Phillips, maybe even a Kyle Smith, a Jack Moody, this is a course that suits a longer breakaway. You can actually break away on this course. So if I was them, I would really be looking at thinking, you've done lap 1, where are some places you could break away, maybe drop an invisibility power up and break away from that field and just use those little climbs, the little downhills to further push your advantage. You can break away on this. It's not a flat course like the Crit City we started with, or the London course. It does roll, so it does suit that strong time trial rider if they can get away. If they can't, it is going to be an all-out sprint to the end, and that may favour those cyclists. Like I said though, if you do get a feather power up, you will have a massive advantage at the end of today's race, being that it finishes on about a 10% grade. So when you go through that green banner that the riders just went through, that's about 1,200 meters until we hit that finish line. So we go round this right-hand corner. It's a beautiful look around Central Park at the moment. Just edging ahead, looks like there's been a little bit of a breakaway at the front of this main pack. We'll see who that might be. No, it looks like they've been caught again. So there's a lot of people just hiding in the pack. It was Braden Curry actually. So Braden Curry took along Cassius East, and they just pulled ahead a little bit there, but were caught fairly quickly. Braden Curry, again, looks like he's just pushing up to 7 watts. So just as I said that this is a course that could suit those time trial riders, this is a course I believe will suit a Braden Curry type rider. Someone who can really push ahead, he is dropping 8 watts a kg. He is putting in a little attack here. If this is the last lap, this is the lap where he should be putting an attack. With about a kilometer to go, this is where you can do it. And there they go, up this gradient. You can see on the top right-hand corner, there's that arch, and there is that gradient going up. It went up to about 10%, evens off. That is the finish arch. You can see Braden Curry drop that feather. He may just be trialing what that would be like in that final lap. I'm not sure if that was a good decision. He may have wanted to keep a hold of that feather actually. Hayden Wild has pushed up over the top. We've got 6 watts a kg. Braden Curry just attacked over that climb leading into lap 2, and Hayden Wild rolled over the top, and they've got a little 1 second lead. They need to keep pushing if they want to really get the field. Not sure if that's going to get them, because we do have a big field of about 50 riders on the hunt behind them, led by Kyle Smith, who is dropping about 6 watts a kg, 6.5, now up to 8.2. He's putting a little sprint. He knows this is danger time. He knows this is dangerous. You can see there's a little gap from that aerial shot, but there we go. Kyle Smith has managed to bridge that gap. Good job, Kyle Smith. Hopefully didn't burn too many matches doing that. And is he going to roll over the top? He may roll over the top, and just looks like this is a very, very serious little attack here. Again, we've got Kyle Smith, Hayden Wild. This is not a group that you want to go away. So this is, it looks actually like potentially, this looks like someone has attacked off the front. Stevens has done a big attack off the front, but has dropped their watts massively. So I'm not sure if they've actually had technical issues. Might just go back and see what's happening there. That might be a technical issue, because they were riding at some very slow watts there. And here we are back with this main group. Looks like they've all come back together. There was just a little bit of excitement there over that first lap. Maybe people just wanted to test the legs, see what everyone's got, show their cards just a little bit as we finish that first lap. So now we're heading into lap 2. We'll keep going with following Somerville here as we flick over to the women's race and see what might be happening. So we're following Hannah Wells. She looks like fallen back to about 30 to 40 seconds off of Ella Harris's group. Hannah Wells is with a group surrounded by Fitzsimmons, Hornblow, McCollum, Nay. Oh, Hosea Nay, actually. That would be a great person to have in a group. A wonderful younger athlete, I think, from the Gisborne area. So that's great to see Hosea in there. And Bobby Kells, again, like I said, an elite rower from New Zealand. Oh, what is quite interesting in this women's race is we do have two females chasing Hannah down. We do have Polly Pawson and Amy Hollenby. So Amy Hollenby performed very well last week. So she was, I think, second or third female ahead of Hannah. So it's great to see Hannah has actually pulled ahead of her in today's race. Just shows that she may be getting used to the Zwift racing. So as she rides to the head of her group, she is about only 12 seconds ahead of Amy Hollenby, and it looks like Penny Pawson. So there is a good battle happening in the female field today. We've got Ella Harris, probably as per usual, off in that main pack, about 25 seconds ahead of Hannah now, but only 12 seconds behind Hannah is Amy Hollenby and Penny Pawson. So they may actually catch. 12 seconds is not a big gap, and they've got some great people working with them. So we'll keep an eye on what's happening there on that female racing. Back to the men here. We've got Gus Marfield, I see, in that front pack. He is, I believe, leading our under 19 category. We can just see them going up a 6% gradient here. There's a few feathers being dropped. Not sure if there's any attacks here happening off the front. Keep an eye out. Got Hayden Wild, Ben Phillips, all the heavy hitters still up here in this main group. Jack Moody. And you can just see on that... and I believe that is Mike Phillips, maybe. He's usually the one sporting that massive beard and shaggy mane in race. So you can see there on the top right-hand map the gradient. So now it's going down to about -8, -7%. It's quite an interesting course. So you have to really push those punchy climbs to stay with the group or make an attack stick. But you've got some long, winding downhills where you can recover. And if you have been dropped, it is possible to catch up on those winding downhills. I actually raced this course in one of the Zwift Pro-Am type races about a month ago, and we managed to TT back up and catch a chase pack. So it is very possible to chase and catch those who may have broken away just by the nature of all the long downhills that you see in this New York course. So we do have Taylor Reid still up the front here, Ryan Kazanowski, there's Andrew Martin, Pawson, another Wild in there, different spelling to Hayden Wild, so I don't think they're related. It looks like a little attack off the front. Someone was just dropping an aero power up. Ben Phillips is still up there. And Jack Moody was it Jack Moody? But no, this is interesting. Rob Harrison, so he has been riding professionally on Zwift. He knows how to ride. He has put in a little attack, and that is actually gapped the field somewhat. And we've got Smith here on his wheel, trying to catch up 7 watts a kg. This is a serious attack coming from Rob Harrison. Taylor Reid is leading that charge pack, but he is really pushing off the front here. He has got his Tron pink bike. So that is a bike that you receive on Zwift from riding over 50,000 meters. So he has obviously got strong legs. He knows how to ride this. He took a week off last week just to get back in the groove, just to get his legs back. Maybe he was doing a little bit too much Zwifting. In our lockdown, Hayden Wild has chased that down. Of course he has. Hayden Wild, great exciting racer. He's seen the danger of that and he has bridged that gap, but this has strung out the field. And if they can keep up these watts, this front little group, they may be able to just push away from the others who have dropped to about 1 second to 2 seconds behind. But I see who's leading that chase is Braden Curry. So that will come back together. And you can see there on that top right map, it is strung out, but it has come back together. So there was an interesting little attack. That might have been a little test from Rob just to see, Josh Harrison. That could have just been a little attack from Josh to see maybe in lap 3 where he could get away. So there may be people testing the waters and seeing what they should do in that last lap. I do believe there may be a couple more attacks just to break up this field a bit, because this field is probably a bit too large for what people want coming into the last lap of today's racing. So we're coming up on 18 kilometers into this race. This race is around 35 kilometers in total today, so it is a longer race, so it will be a little bit more strategic and interesting to see how this plays out. Just keep our eyes on Ryan Kazanowski here. Like I said, he is tied in first place for our A+ elite category, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes up against Cassius East in today's racing. And very interesting developments in the women's racing today as well. I've got eyes on Hannah Wells. We have had Ella Harris, who is has broken away. She is about 30 to 40 seconds ahead of Hannah now, but Hannah is sitting in second. But this group that had Penny Pawson and it looks like Andrea Hewitt and also Amy Hollenby, looks like they may have caught, and Hannah is just yo-yoing at the moment just off that back group, but she has actually been caught by 3 other females. So it looks like Andrea Hewitt, Penny Pawson and Amy Hollenby have latched onto Hannah's group, and that is going to be an all-out battle for podium places in the women's division today. That's very exciting racing, and the women's race is getting more and more exciting. I think a lot of the women, other than Ella Harris, started the Zwift League with not much experience with Zwift racing. And now you can see week on week, they are getting the idea of the Zwift racing. They're knowing what they're doing. Hannah, I will give you a little tip here, as you need to change your race wheels. So it would have been better today to have some deep dish race wheels. This is a rolling course with some hills, but also some nice flat downhill. So you really probably would have wanted to put on the Zip 808s or the Zip 404s for today's racing. Key is in these, tight end finishes, it really does make a big difference what bike setup you've got. So you'll see a lot of people riding these Tron bikes. They're probably the fastest bike on this type of a course. They're the glow in the dark type looking bikes. But other than that, you can pick what bikes you would want. And talking with some of my athletes this week, I definitely said those Zip 808s or 404s, which you can buy through your sweat drops in the Zwift garage from about level 10 onwards in game, would really make quite a big difference on today's race. So that women's race is going to turn out to be very interesting today. So we'll keep our eyes on that. In the group with Hannah, we do have Tony O'Hagan. He's the one who's the head coach for O'Hagan Sport, who is leading the coach group standings. We've got Morgan, Jags, McCollum, Meads, Fitzsimmons, Wills. So there's a big group there, I'd say, of about 20 who is chasing down Ella Harris. If they can actually work together, they may catch her. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Andrea Hewitt also in that group with Hannah Wells and the other 2 female riders. So we'll head back to what's happening in this race on the main screen. So we're up to that little 8% kicker again. Looks like someone has just broken off the front. We'll make our way up the field. You can see Taylor Reid still here, Hayden Wild, Jack Moody, and it looked as though it was Braden Curry actually. Oh, Hayden Wild is chasing that down, so we can see Braden Curry has gapped the field by 2 seconds. It is being chased down by Hayden Wild. This is an interesting race between those 2 riders today. So there we can see Braden Curry has pulled off the front of this field, and he has got about 2 seconds. He is pushing 6.4 watts a kg. Braden Curry is following a strategy today of, on these little kicker climbs, he is putting in attacks, and he's managed to get 2 to 3 seconds on this field. Problem is that pack behind him is so large, the draft effect is just massive. So he has to put out a huge effort to be able to break away. We've got Kay Wild leading that chase along with Lindsay, who is doing very well in the standings as well. Kyle Smith moving to the front here to chase that down like he did actually previously. Hayden Ralston, he is an amazing ex-Commonwealth Games and I believe Olympic cyclist, so he knows what he's doing. They look like they've brought that in, but that may have burned a few matches of people leading that chase. So nice work, Braden Curry. I like how he's mixing it up. This is a race where you can mix it up on those little kicker climbs, and I believe does look like a few people have dropped off this main pack. It was about 50. Looks like now it could be around 30 riders in this main pack. And they're coming round. Like I said, when they go under this little green banner, this is about 1,200 meters till we hit the end of lap number 2. And I'll tell you right now, lap number 3 is going to be fireworks. There are about 3 kicker climbs, little punchy ones in this last lap, and this is where we could see some attacks. It may come from Braden Curry, it may come from Hayden Wild. Let's have a look. We're coming through here. We're about to hit about 1,200 meters till we hit the end of lap number 2. It's a 3-lap race today. See some people dropping power-ups. So the reason they're dropping power-ups there is they've maybe got a power-up that they didn't really want, and when you go under those little banners, you get up a new power-up. So today, like I said, you're probably going to want that feather if this remains in a big group, or the aero or invisibility power up if you're planning on making a little attack. So if I was Braden Curry or Hayden Wild, I'd probably be wanting the invisibility or the aero power up so that you can put in a bit of a long range attack, because they know the cyclists in this group, such as Hayden Ralston, will probably beat them in an all-out power sprint. It's just they're used to that track riding. They know how to do it. Good to see Aaron Royal in this main pack as well. He has been dropped off a little bit in the last races. I can just see someone screaming through the field here. We will pass some lapped riders coming up. So there are a couple of A riders ahead, but they will be lapped riders. Heath Eckersley is also in this main group. So we've got a big power play for those top positions in the male A+ and A categories. So this race is really going to start to shake things up. And like I said, because it's a best of 4 of the 6-race series, and now we're in race number 5, things are going to start to mix up. I know that someone like Ryan Sissons, he had some Wi-Fi issues in one race. Josh Harrison didn't race last week, just wanted to take a bit of a break. So that is going to mix up the field a little bit because we're going to start to drop those underperforming races. Aaron Strong, I've just seen, is in this main pack as well. So here we go. Here's what's going to be the finish line in the next lap. This is the end of lap number 2. So it is a big climb up to that finish banner. It's going to be fireworks when we come around here at the end of this now lap 3. So we're into last lap. We've ridden 23.5 kilometers. It's only around a 35 kilometer race, 11.5K to go. This is where things are going to start to get very interesting. We can see here there may be a little attack off the front here. Again, this has been interesting to me. A lot of attacks off the front of this group. Cassius East still here in the main pack. If we can just see, who was it? Josh Harrison again. May have actually been an international rider here. So we'll just keep an eye. We've got a Brazilian who's decided to come and join in the fun today. So that's great. Not sure what time it is in Brazil, but we welcome all our international competitors. They won't be part of the lead standings, but they might add a little bit of fireworks to the racing. And if we head over to the women's race, they have just got about, I think, around 1,500 meters to go before they hit the end of their lap 2 and they head into that last lap. Hannah Wells is in that chase pack to Ella Harris with Penny Pawson and with Amy Hollenby and Andrea Hewitt. So that group that they're in is about 20 strong, and it looks like they've pulled in and they're about maybe 25 seconds behind Ella Harris's group. So if they can work together and if they can really start to get someone on the front leading the charge, we could have a nice little attack for the top 3 places for that female league. I do know that Ella Harris is a very savvy Zwift racer, and if she sees this group behind catching up, she will probably go to the front of her group and push the pace. So we'll see how that eventuates. But 4 women chasing for those podium positions at the moment. So back to this group here, I think we're down to around, still looks like about 25 to 30 riders. I would not be comfortable if I was a Braden Curry or a Jack Moody or a Kyle Smith, or those guys who are very good at that long format of racing, the half Ironmans and Ironmans. I would not be comfortable with the size of this group at the moment because they may not have the push. As we saw last week, Hayden Wild was great at the long range attack, and it just was that cyclist with the power in his legs that came through with the sprint finish. So if I was those guys, I would be wanting to put in some sort of an attack coming up so that you could break apart this group and really start to get rid of those cyclist specialists who are in this group and may come through and pass you on a sprint finish. So we'll see what happens here. There is maybe a little bit of hand holding here. The pack is not strung out. They're in a nice little bubble, for want of a better word. So it looks as though the pace has slackened off. Yes, it is just down to sub 4 watts a kg for some of those riders, which is very light for this group and the power that these guys can hold. We'll see. I think we will start to see some attacks soon because they are really, or they under 10k away now from the finish. If someone's going to do a long range attack, it will come in the next couple of kilometers, probably when we hit one of those punchy climbs. That is where Braden Curry has, in the last 2 laps, tried to push away and has gotten up to around 3 seconds, but was caught relatively quickly. If riders could work together, I do wonder if riders, talk during the week and talk about maybe some team tactics or maybe a way that they can get away. If we do think triathlete versus cyclist, you'd hope the triathletes would think about maybe pushing away. Here we are on this climb going up to around 5% gradient. I'm seeing a lot of feathers being dropped, but I'm not seeing any attacks on this one. So it's all a little cagey here in this front group right now. Maybe no one wants to attack. It is pushing like 8 watts a kg there, so it's pretty hard to attack off such a big wattage. But we do see Dan Coleman here, who just pushed up to 8, got to the front, maybe got to the front and wasn't quite keen to stay there. And we do have Braden Curry, who has moved to the front of that pack. I just wonder if he is biding his time and maybe he's going to attack with about 3 to 5 kilometers to go. Very interesting. You can see here he's pushing around 520 watts, and that is on a downhill. He's pushing that kind of power. Kyle Smith has just moved to the front of that group. They're on a big sweeping downhill here of around -6. So a few people getting in the super tuck. I personally probably wouldn't super tuck much today, just because what happens with that super tuck is if you don't get out of it quick enough, you lose all your power and people can come over you and pass you, which obviously you don't want. And because this course is so rolling, it is tricky to not lose that power in the super tuck. It looks like Kyle Smith has just rolled to the head here, and Braden Curry has dropped that drafting power up, so he is taking a little bit of a break. That increases his draft effect by 50%, so he's able to relax just. Oh, there are some attacks here. We've got, we're up to a big climb, 7-8% gradient. This may be where some of these riders are going to attack. Let's have a look. We've got Rob Harrison. Again, this is where he attacked on the last lap, and he managed to get about 3 seconds on that chase group. He is riding at around 7 watts per kg, 520 watts. Oliver is catching up. Ryan Kazanowski sees the danger. So does Hayden Wild. So does Ben Phillips. They are dropping those watt bombs. They're up to those orange numbers, and it looks as though they are pulling it in. We've just actually had another group come onto the pack here, so we'll stay with Rob Harrison. It looks like a group of lapped riders, and ahead of them, that is actually the female group. So they have come through another path on this Central Park loop. So that is interesting. That pack just ahead of them is actually that chase group of female riders that I've been covering with Hannah Wells, Amy Hollenby, and Andrea Hewitt and Penny Pawson in it. They've just turned off, so that was interesting to see that group there. So they're obviously just a little bit behind. This course does sweep around all the roads of Central Park, and so that's why we saw one group coming up there. Kyle Smith, he was just dropping some big watt bombs there. There is a break in the pack. There is a break. You can just see in that top right-hand corner of those red dots, there has been a little break, and this little climb here may be where a rider decides just to reinforce that break with that little chase. So Kyle Smith here and Cassius East. Cassius is leading this group here. He's leading the charge. Cassius is tied with Ryan Kazanowski in that first place position in the league standings. We've got Hayden Wild has moved his way to the front as well with Kyle Smith. So these guys are wanting to be near the front of the pack because this is where the danger is going to happen. We've only got about 5 kilometers left of this race to go. and you're just waiting here to see when these attacks are going to happen. I just don't think for a triathlete it's the best place to wait until that finish line, because it is where it kicks up to 10%, and those sprinters, the cyclists who can sprint, they can push those watts per kg of almost 15, 16 watts a kg. We're looking at Taylor Reid here, just edged ahead on that climb, not a big amount. If he wanted that to stick, he's really got to ride around the 7 watts per kg mark. So it looks like he's just wanting to lead the pack here. They have dropped a couple of riders on that climb. The pack is stringing out. Taylor Reid is having a nice little effort. It's good to see him at the front. He maybe being a bit newer to Zwift. He's been a bit more back of the pack for that A+ category in the last few races, but it's great to see him near the front here. A triathlete hailing out of Gizzy. He's an amazing racer, very exciting, like Hayden Wild. He puts in some really good attacks, and he does make this very exciting. So let's have a look. We've got Braden Curry near the front with Hayden Wild, Aaron Royal, the Australian, also up there, Josh Harrison, and we've flipped away from that field, unfortunately. Where did that go? Just seeing Rebecca Clark there. This race has just gone away from that main pack, which is disappointing. They've still got 6K to go, so hopefully we will catch up. Just with some of these riders being lapped, it has just flicked off to a different race. Let's make our way up to the front. You can see our other A group riders here. There we go, back up to the front. Phew! Okay, so we are down into the last 5 kilometers. We'll just stick on one rider here so that we don't have that issue of flicking through. So we're covering Hayden Wild. Let's see if he's going to put in any attacks. He really lit up the race last week. It'll be interesting to see if he can back that up with another race today. We don't have the big climbs like we did last week, where he was deciding to put in his attacks. It is still a bunch. I would say it's whittled down to about 20 to 25 riders. That is a big group to be taking into that final big punchy climb to that finish line. So we're at 31 kilometers. This race is about 35. So we're in our last 4 kilometers here. Looks like Taylor Reid is all about some little attacks today. He was just up around that 8 to 9 watts per kg. We've got Gus Marfil in there as well, our great under 19 athlete. And we can see here Pawson Wild, Josh Harrison leading that front group as well. So this is just coming down to what I would say is the last 3 kilometers. Be interesting to see what happens here. It hasn't played out like I thought. I thought there may have been more attacks and a bit of a breakaway, but it looks like everyone is going to leave it until that last sort of 1,500 meters. There's a 1,500, from 1,500 meters, there's a long flat section, which is, if you've got an aero power up, that's where you want to drop it. That's where you want to start to break away. Hayden is pushing the 7 watts a kg. Maybe this is a breakaway. We've got Kyle Smith now. He has moved to the front. He was pushing 8 watts a kg there. Kyle and Hayden may be working together. I've seen a few 1-2 punches coming from these two today. So we've got Ungaro behind them, Kyle Smith, Lindsay, Jack Moody. The watts are going up. We've got 6 watts a kg. This pace is getting frenetic. We're in the last 3 kilometers of this race. These guys know it's getting down to the business end. There's a lot of internal battles here for the top of the A+ and the top of the A categories. So let's see what happens here. We've got Aaron Strong still in this main group. He's been riding very well today. And you can just see they're going to come by what will be a green banner, and then we're about, give or take, 1,200 meters until the finish line. Let's see how these guys are going. It does go down into a long sweeping downhill, and then you will see it will kick up and they will reach the finish line. So we're into the last about 2.5 kilometers of this race, and it's going to get very exciting. I can't tell what's going to happen here. I don't see a Lawrence Pithy, so we know there may not be that big kicker cyclist there, which maybe is what these guys were thinking, which is maybe why they've stayed together a little bit more. They haven't done too many attacks. They know that there's not that big, strong, track-based cyclist who could take out that sprint finish. So maybe they believe if they stay together, someone could do a long-range attack and manage to break away. So let's have a look. 33 kilometers in, we're into the last 2 kilometers of this race. Oh, it's going to get pretty exciting. This is, like I said, they're going to go under this green banner, and it's about 1,500 meters or 1,200 meters, give or take, until we hit the finish line. When I did this earlier in the week, this is actually where I dropped an aero power up and managed to break away from the bunch. So I'll be interested to know what power ups people are going to get under the sprint banner and what we're going to see leading into this last kilometre of racing, because I think there will be fireworks. I think at the moment they're just biding their time. It's very cagey riding. There's a lot of movement around the pack. You can see the riders just moving around constantly, trying to be in that front group. And let's have a look. They'll be all getting their new power-ups now. We may start to see them being dropped. We're about 1,200 metres away from that finish banner, which finishes on a 10% gradient. So just make sure we don't click out of this group. We've got Hayden Wild there with following S Golding. So he is hitting around 7 watts per kg. And it looks as though Hayden Wild is just sitting in the pack. I wonder what power up he's got. Maybe he didn't get any at all. That is the gaming part of Zwift. You don't know what people have got. Someone is dropping an aero, so that is something you want to watch. This will be an attack. If they're dropping that aero power up here, they need to go to the front. Who is that? That is Kyle Smith. So Kyle Smith is putting in an attack. He has moved up there. Let's have a look. Kyle Smith, 10 watts per kg. So he has managed to pull away from this pack 10 watts a kg. This is amazing. So that is huge racing. Braden Curry is on his heels, as is Cassius East. These guys know the danger. I love the strategy of Kyle Smith. This, I think, is something that could work if he can keep up these watts. He needs to keep up these watts. He needs to stay ahead of Cassius East and Braden Curry. He's dropped an aero power up, guys. He's dropped that aero power up. He may just stay away. I think Kyle Smith may stay away with this aero power up. Perfect timing. He put in the attack. He got a gap. He dropped that aero power up and he has managed to stay away. There are some watts being dropped here. Lindsay behind, Barnes, Josh Harrison, Oliver, Royal, Smith, Ben Phillips, Hayden Wild, Hayden Ralston, and that looks like Kyle Smith. He may have been caught by Josh Harrison on the line. We'll have to see later. That could be a photo finish, but it looked like Kyle Smith. That is amazing racing. I love that. He timed that attack to perfection. He used that aero power up when he needed to. He dropped those huge watt bombs, and it looks like he may have just got Josh Harrison on the line. That was amazing. Congratulations, Kyle Smith. I love that kind of racing. Now I am going to drop back now and see if we can get into the women's race field to see what's happened here, but we may just not be able to. I am still following it on this other computer, so I will go through. We're just watching some Ds at the moment, so we'll have a look here at Tracy Lavington and the Ds while I tell you what is happening in the A women's race. So Ella Harris has still managed to stay away. She's stayed in that group ahead, but this chase group has got Hannah Wells, Hosea Nay, we've got Bobby Kells, that elite rower, but also in there, Penny Pawson. She is a New Zealand cyclist, but also races for a professional team on Zwift, and Amy Hollenby. And I just see if, I can't quite see if Andrea Hewitt has stayed in that group. There is a big group of about 15 to 20 riders. Looks like Andrea Hewitt, from what I can see, may not have been in this group. She may have been dropped, or she's hiding at the back. So we'll just see if I can see Andrea Hewitt's name. Ella Harris is actually only 15 seconds ahead of this group. So these guys have pulled in a massive margin on Ella Harris's group. They were about 30 seconds ahead, now only 15 seconds. But they just are not riding at the watts needed to catch them, I don't believe. So it is going to be a race for the podium. Looks like Ella Harris will take out first place, but it is going to be a race for the podium between Hannah Wells, Penny Pawson, and Amy Hollenby of this chasing female group. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I'm not sure what's happened to Andrea Hewitt. Nope, she is in there as well. She is hiding at the back. So she has maybe been studying up on Zwift, and now if she just sits in this group at the back and saves all that energy, she is the type of rider that could have a good sprint finish. Hannah Wells, a long course racer, Amy Hollenby, a New Zealand cyclist, and Andrea Hewitt, a short course racer. This will be a very, very interesting dynamic between all these different types of riders. So they are just coming into their last kilometre. They're just coming into that area where Kyle Smith dropped that aero power up and managed to get away from the field. So we've got Amy Hollenby, the cyclist, Hannah Wells, the long course triathlete, and Andrea Hewitt, our Olympic Games short course triathlete, all in this chase pack, chasing down Ella Harris, who looks like she has taken out the women's race. So let's see what's happening here. Hannah Wells, we're following her. She's riding about 5 watts a kg. She's right in the top third of this group. We see some some power ups starting to be dropped. So it looks as though they're just coming into they're within a kilometer, about 800 meters. Someone's dropped a feather, which probably isn't the best time to drop it. And looking at Hannah, has she been passed by Hollenby, who is a cycling specialist and knows her way around Zwift? Let's have a look. Hannah is now dropping. She has dropped an aero power up. Hannah's dropped that aero. She's riding around 7.5 watts a kg. It looks as though she may have pulled ahead of Amy Hollenby and Andrea Hewitt. From the results here, yes, and Hannah Wells has pulled ahead of Amy Hollenby to take second place. Looks like Amy in third, and it looked like Andrea Hewitt has pulled into fourth in the women's field. Great racing in that women's field. That was very exciting today. It looks as though we will be having another Try and Z league that will come up after this one, and I think we will have a separate, totally separate race for the women. So that's great to see that exciting racing, and hopefully we can see a lot more of it. So here we go. We're following some of the D riders today. So we're here with I think it's Tanya Levington or Tracy Levington from Triathlon Wellington. I wonder if she's got a club kit on. I know they were riding in some yellow and black club kit. Barry Eccles here. Bronwyn Brown, she actually came and did a race recon with me, so great to see Bronwyn out here racing. We'll go through our field and see if we can see, going through the D riders at the moment. Give a few shout outs as we go through. Tracy Boss here from North Harbour Triathlon Club. So to sum up the racing again, a great finish from Kyle Smith. That was timed to perfection. So awesome to see. The results will be up later today of what the rest of the podium would look like, but it looked like Josh Harrison and Kyle Smith were right there at the top end of the field. The female field, Ella Harris again has taken out the women's race, but this time coming up in second, Hannah Wells. So interesting there, that'll move her up in the league standings. And then we had Amy Hollenby in third, and it looked like Andrea Hewitt in fourth for the female racing. So we'll go through here. Looks like Amanda Cathro here has found herself a nice little group with Rob Huggins from Triathlon Tauranga. Kelly Good here, great supporter of Triathlon New Zealand, hails out of Wanaka, does a lot of great work with the club down there. Ken O'Rourke, one of our technical officials, so great to see him here representing Canterbury Triathlon Club. He is one of our very passionate technical officials, does a lot of good work, especially at our off-road triathlons down at Motatapu. So great to see these guys with Ennis Young in a good little group here, about 5 or 6 riders. Let's have a look going further up the D field. So it was interesting racing today. It's a long course, so we may have some people out here for a wee while, just being 35 kilometres. Looks like we've got Mel Saltiel, representative from Triathlon New Zealand, riding here in the D category. So great work, Mel. I'll make our way up. Rowan Simpson, great supporter of Triathlon New Zealand. He's in a nice little bunch of D riders here with Ian Fahey, who has been doing very well in the league. Lee Davison, another Canterbury Triathlon Club member. She actually rode the ride I did in the weekend, which was led by John Newsom. Very, very tough 4.5 hours in the saddle with a lot of climbing. There we go. So that's kind of made our way through up the D riders. Let's see if we can make it through to any of the different categories before I sign off. And if you haven't already, head over to the Try and Z Facebook page and make sure you vote on what you want the final race of the series to be. So I've left it up to viewers' choice. So just click on the link. I'll take you through to a few feedback questions, and at the end of that, you have the choice of what you want to race in the final race of the series. At the moment, what's leading is 1 lap of the UCI Innsbruck course. So it's about 25 kilometers, but with a huge climb in it. So if you don't want to do any climbing, make sure you go in there and vote for something else. Otherwise, looks like next week we may be hitting our European course in Innsbruck for a big climb. But head over to the Facebook page and put in your votes over what you'd want to do there. Just as we're making our way through all the different D categories here, which has obviously strung out a lot, we might leave the racing here. But congrats to everyone who raced today, and hope you enjoyed watching. We'll see you next week for our Participants' Choice race course.